Greetings. We're going to take off from where we left off from the other video. And right now what we're going to discuss to start is Rules for Radicals, which is a book that was written by Saul Alinsky, who was a communist. Well-known communist as a matter of fact. Hillary Clinton actually really looked up to this guy very, very strongly, and so much so that she sought audience with him. She read his books. She used to write and have correspondence with him, which I had found out through some of my research. And it was really astounding to me because if you look at his book, his main book was called Rules for Radicals. And here they also say that Obama referenced this guy as well. And he was a staunch communist. Anyway, let's cover some of the things in his book. You may want to actually dig up this book or find a copy or actually buy it too if you really want to know how these communists or socialists think. They're really a danger to any capitalist society or economy, because they, let me just show you here, because this is like a picture of a news article called Beware the Useful Idiots. And this guy, they say his writings actually influenced the people that are in political control of our country today. And if you think this can't happen, if you think a socialist / communist is not having an effect on our country today, you need to check this out. Listen to what this basic outline is of the strategy that Saul Alinsky pushed for people who want to overthrow an established method of governance in a country. So he says basically that there are 8 levels of control that must be obtained before you can create a social state or overtake another social state, an established state. Point 1 is healthcare, because he says if you control healthcare, you control the people. You control the bulk of the people, because if people are sick, they're gonna people want to do anything to stay healthy, because your health is basically your life. Without health, you have no life or quality of life. Number 2, poverty. He says here that you want to increase the poverty level as high as possible, because poor people are easier to control and they won't fight back, and they won't stand up to the government or authority. They'll feel no desire to challenge authority if the government is providing them everything that they need to live. So it's kind of like a bribe. Things like welfare, things like subsidies, giveaways, credits, anything. If you can make people dependent on the government, then they're going to go along, to have a tendency to go along with anything that people in the government want to do. Number 3, debt. He says here they want to increase the debt to an unsustainable level. In that way, you're able to increase taxes, which will produce more poverty, which we discussed in point number 2. Point number 4, gun control. Remove the ability to of people to defend themselves from government. And in that way, you can create a police state. This is some really tripped out stuff here. It's basically a blueprint for how to take over America or take over a society. Number 5, welfare. He says here that you want to take control of every aspect of the people's lives. Their food, the supply of food, the quality of the food, housing. You want to determine where they live, how they live, and income. And income we'll talk about income because the income is, that's your power to access the things you want to access in your life. If you want a better place to live, you want better food, better education, you want better things in life, you're going to need income to buy them. Point number 6 is education. They want to take control of what people read and listen to, and also want to take control of what children learn in school, because if they can determine what the children learn, then the children are going to have the value system that these people want to instill in them so that they behave the way that the controllers of society want them to behave in. They will think the way they want them to think, and which means that they will do the things that these people want them to do. It's kind of a long drawn out thing, but it's really an advanced strategy, because if you can teach people how to think and what to think, or to think in the way you want them to think, then they will come to the conclusions that you want them to come to, and then you'll be able to control them without using any type of external type of force. Because people, if you try to force people into doing things, they have a tendency to resist. It's almost like a reflex. Like when your parents tell you to do something, you automatically want to do the opposite, or they tell you not to do something, you automatically want to do it. It's the same type of thing. So to bypass that, the strategy is to educate or to indoctrinate people into the mindset you want them to have. That in that way, they'll do what you want them to do and think it's their own idea. So it's nothing for them to rebel against. Point number 7 is religion. And what they say here is interesting. They say here they want to remove the belief in God from the government and schools, which we already can see, happening already. Point number 8 is class warfare. And the objective is to divide the people into the wealthy and the poor, which will cause more discontent with the poor, which usually is going to be the majority of people, and it also make it easier for the government to take or tax the wealthy with the support of the majority, which will be mostly poor people. Now, in the article, the guy asked, now, does any of this sound like what is happening in the United States? And if you're honest, you have to admit that that's exactly the strategy that's being used in the United States. It's been in effect for quite some time already. If you're honest, you do a little research and look into it, or if you're a little bit more aware, you will see and already understand that this is the game plan that these people are using. And so the guy the writer of the article, his name is Geer, G-E-R. He's saying that what Alinsky did is that he simplified Vladimir Lenin's original plan for world conquest by communism under Russian rule. And notice this, that Stalin described his converts as quote-unquote useful idiots. And then he finishes the article by going ahead to say that the useful idiots, these dupes, these people have been tricked into believing in socialism and communism. These useful idiots have destroyed every nation in which they have seized power and control, and that it is presently happening at an alarming rate in the United States. I mean, that's some scary stuff if you really think to how far these people are along in this agenda to subvert capitalism in the United States. We're really freedom, because capitalism represents freedom. Because if you're free to make as much money as you want, money represents freedom, because then you have more choices. So people that are attacking the wealth of the country are really attacking the people's freedom. So moving along, we're going to go to another article. The title of this article is America Back on the Road to Slavery. And the headline, which is built really a big summary, and we're going to discuss this in a little more depth as we dig into this article. What you find is that slavery, socialism, and communism all forbid the individual the right to earn and spend all of their money. So you have to understand that. And so what he does here is he contrasts and compares slavery, socialism, and communism. Now, slavery, a slave is basically a person who works for a master that owns the slave. The master tells the slave what work to perform. The slave has no rights to protest. The slave is not paid cash for his or her services. The slave owner does provide food, shelter, and clothing in order to keep the slave alive so he can perform services for the master. And he says here that in many ways, socialism and communism are very much like slavery, although it may not appear that way to a casual observer. And it also, you will not hear people that support socialism and or communism describe it to people in terms like this, because they can't get you to buy into it if they tell the truth about it. Nobody wants to willingly be a slave to, you'd have to be. It just doesn't make sense, because people, your very nature is for you to want more freedom over less freedom, and total freedom over, something like a slavery. So back into it, we come to understanding once again that socialism is a concept that individuals should not have ownership of land, capital, or money, or industry, or really no property at all. You shouldn't own anything according to socialist/communist doctrine. The whole community or the state is what owns and owns, not only owns, but also controls. I guess with ownership means control. But the state and or the community is the owner of all property, all goods, production, services, everything. The state owns it. And if you really think about it, the state actually owns the people, because the ultimate property is your property right in yourself, in your body. Your freedom to do what you want to do with your body, with yourself, with your time, with your property, with your resources. That's the ultimate control. And if you don't control your body, if you can't control your body, if you can't control your time, you can't control your activities, you are not in control of yourself. And that diverts back to being a slave, because if you don't have control of yourself, whoever does is basically your master, and you're the slave. So, but in the theory, going back to this, but in the theory of socialism, all the people will share equally in the work and the fruits of their labor. So it means everybody's going to work according to this plan. Everybody does the work, and then everybody reaps the benefits of the work. So in an ideal world, this is a Christian version of the altruistic thing where, hey, we're all going to work for each other and we're going to work for the betterment of society and we're all going to take care of each other and everybody's going to look out for everybody and we are the world and all this kind of flowery stuff. But as this guy mentions, the author mentions, in the real world, owing to human nature, which is something that we're just born with, this system breaks down quickly. And that nationalized socialism, in theory, is a lot like communism. And I'll go on to say that, you know, as a little aside, because you hear a lot of people that push this thing about socialism. They say, oh no, we're not pushing socialism, we're pushing for democratic socialism. And I'll give you a quick understanding of what that is. It's because whatever socialism is, when they slap it and want to change the term and call it democratic socialism, all that means basically is that instead of whoever these leaders are instituting who the people are in the government that run things, they change it to, instead of us putting these people in power, what we're going to do is let you vote on the people that tell you everything you do. So instead of that, all you get to do is vote for your slave masters, basically. So I'm wondering where the benefit in that is. And it really doesn't change the true, essence of what socialism is or what communism is. It doesn't change the essence of what it is. It just changes, how these people are selected, because just because you get to vote on which slave master you get doesn't make you free. Just because you get a vote, you give the slave a vote, he's still a slave. So moving right along, we find that communism is a similar concept as socialism, in that the ownership of land, capital, and industry cannot be owned or controlled by any individuals, or individual that's not associated with the state or with the government. So the way he explains here is that under communism, the control of land, capital, industry, products, all these things is not by a local community as it is in socialism, but that is by the state government. So when you look at this, what you find is that under communism, the government has total control of everything produced and control of what is made, who gets it, what's produced, who can have some, who can't, and all the allocation. So if they determine that you don't need a car, or somebody else has a higher priority, or a certain group of people has a higher priority for getting whatever it may be clothes, it could be food, it could be what type of food, the quality of the food, whatever goods and services. It could be deodorant, it could be soap, it could be generators, it could be homes, it could be anything that the state or some bureaucrat, because when you're talking about a state, it's always ran by bureaucrats, people who work for the government. They're going to sit up. You're not going to determine what you get. You're not going to determine when you get it, whether or not you get it or not. You don't determine that. They're going to determine it. They're going to determine, come through whatever method they use, whether it's a formula or whether it's just how they feel about it. They're going to determine what you get, when you get it, whether you get it. They're going to determine that. And you have no say. And you can you can request it, but they are the ones who determine that. So under this system, you're not allowed to own your own home, your car, your furniture, the food you eat, the clothes on your back. Nothing. The state decides what you can use and where you will work, and if you will work or not, and what you will do, what type of work you will do. And you have few, if any, rights. So you may not have any rights. And if you study about communism, what you come to learn is that the only rights you have is the rights they tell you you have. You don't have any inherent rights. You don't have any inherent right to freedom of speech. You don't have any right to religious association, or who you associate, or who you talk to, or whether or not you can complain to the government. You don't have any right except the right they tell you have. And if they tell you, they can determine if you have any rights at all. They can determine when you have rights or if you don't. So his summary right here is that what you come to understand is that the common thread between all three of these systems is that ownership is controlled by other people, not you. You're not free to decide how you can earn and spend your own money because you don't have any money, and B, because the government has the ultimate right and power to tell you what you can and can't do. They're the ones in control, and you're not. The government's the master, and you are the subject. The government tells you when to jump, where to jump, how high to jump, if you can jump, how long you can jump. And you have to do it. You don't have any real power, power to resist or to complain. Because if you look into the history of socialist countries or communist countries, well, you never really had a communist country, but they are well known, almost legendary, for their jailing, silencing, and execution of dissidents, of people that complained about the system, or complained about the government. In a communist or a socialist country, the people do not complain about the government publicly, because you think about the U.S.S.R, Russia. They were legendary for sending people off to Siberia. Siberia is this place far north in Russia that's known for its brutally cold weather. It was set off way off so that it's like they call it Gulag, G-U-L-A-G, and that's where they send people that want to complain. Oh, you got a problem, or people that are disobedient. You ended up in the Gulag, which is known for hard labor. You're in the cold place, and you're far, hundreds of miles away from civilization. So even if you figured out a way to escape the Gulag, now you gotta walk 100, 200 miles before you even get to any type of civilization. So I mean, it's crazy. But this is what people are actually pushing for to turn America into. You really got to stop and think about it. You got to analyze this. You can't just go along with what these people are telling you at face value. You have to do a little digging to figure out exactly what you are supporting and what you're really asking for, if you really think that socialism and or communism will give you a better society than capitalism or free enterprise. So I could go on, but I'm going to stop here because I don't want this. I already went, a nice distance, and I want to break this down so that you can sit down and really think through what's going on here and what you're really supporting if you support, socialism. Because I'd venture to say that most people that support socialism, they are loving a lot of the elements of capitalism that they benefit from. And the old meme goes, you got people talking, requesting or supporting socialism as they sip a latte at Starbucks, a big company, on their iPhone or iPad. Well, talking about, I love socialism. With social in a socialist system, you don't have any of those products. You're not going to have them because you're not going to have people that have the ability to start a company to produce these things. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, and I'll see you next time where we're going to go in more depth, and I will go over what some of the characteristics and why socialism not only doesn't work, but why it can't work. It's an impossibility for socialism to work in the way that these people are pushing it. And maybe I'll also discuss how it may possibly work. There may be a way for it to work, but in general, it's no way socialism can work. Because, and this is a little preview, because the bottom line is that socialism is antithetical, or the opposite of human nature. It just doesn't work. It can't work long term. And with that, we'll go ahead and shut her down. And I hope to see you in the next episode. And make sure you like this, share it with other people. And if you got any questions or comments, go ahead and feel free to comment below. And if you find any value with this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and along with the bell. Thanks a lot.